It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Jamie Shaw. How are you doing today?
Brandon, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start a sports podcast?
So I've been dabbling in and out of podcasts for a few years now. When the pandemic hit and stuff and we weren't allowed to be out, we weren't able to go out and, be around the public and all that kind of stuff, it only made sense to kind of broaden the spectrum by interviewing and doing stuff that you're able to do remotely. Putting that type of content out, putting that type of information out on the web, and start sharing stories and start sharing information of coaches who are already there and already doing what they're doing, and players who are currently they're missing opportunities of getting seen and being recruited and stuff. So why not start interviewing them and talking to them and putting their information out and their stories out for the coaches, for the platform that I have for them to be able to see and read and all that type of stuff. So it kind of spurned or spawned from, kind of the pandemic and kind of being indoors and people not being able to get out and do that, and grew from there.
Can you talk about how you got started being a basketball analytic?
Sure. So it was 2013. I was in a corporate job doing corporate sales. It was low voltage services and all that type of stuff. So I was at the state championship in 2013. I believe Brandon Ingram was playing. I was there with my little brother, and I looked down on the court, and Dave Tellep was down there, and he was shaking everybody's hand. He knew everybody. All the players are coming up to him, and the coaches knew who he was and all that type of stuff. And I looked at my brother and said, I would love to do that one day. So stayed there for the duration of those championships and stuff, and put in my 2 weeks notice actually the next Monday of my corporate job, and just started doing it. I didn't know what it entailed. I had grown up around basketball. I played obviously basketball in high school, and was involved in college. Coached a little bit of basketball while I was in college as well at the high school and JV level, and kind of studied around the game. I'm 10 years older than my brother, so coaching him coming up and then watching his AAU stuff and everything, and I just had the wild hair and said I wanted to do it. I didn't know what it involved, so I just jumped in head first, and it became from 2013 to now, it became what it is.
Can you talk about how you got started being a basketball scout?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of in the same. So when I did, I guess a basketball analyst and basketball scouts kind of along the same lines or whatever. The analyst is more of a, I guess what you do is you look at players and you describe what they are, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, and you provide that for a broader audience. On the scout side of things, what that does is it makes you be a liaison between college coaches or NBA scouts and the high school players that you're watching or whatnot. So being the scout kind of spawned from becoming the analyst. I started to go to events. I linked up with a guy named Rick Lewis with Phenom Hoops Report, and we turned that from a camp business into a company, and then we built Phenom Hoop Report to what it is current day. I've since left Phenom and started my own thing, Absolute Basketball. But with the scouting side of things, the trust that I built with college coaches in the time that I was an analyst, they built a huge trust. They started seeking me out to talk about players, and they started seeking me out for my opinions on players and where they projected to and all that type of stuff. And a long track record of hard work and leading them down the right path and in the right direction, and being ahead of the curve for a while kind of built their trust within me, within the industry. And now it's become, a pretty big thing.
Can you talk about your time at Phenom Hoops?
Sure. So it was 2013. Not long after I decided to get into this, it was probably, I guess I decided in March. I put in my 2 weeks notice in March, and then in June I met Rick, At that point in time, Phenom was doing 3 or 4 camps a year. We met. He approached me. We started working together and everything. Decided from that point forward we'd be doing everything 50-50. We grew together. We grew Phenom from the camps that we were doing all the way up until what we did this past year. My last year with Phenom, we had 40 to 45 events with 20,000 or so kids come through the doors. So there was incredible growth during that time frame. We branched off into doing high school events. We branched off into doing more exclusive, specific type of camps. We branched off into doing travel ball tournaments and all that type of stuff too. So it just grew and grew and grew and grew, and it was a good time, and I learned a lot.
Can you talk about your podcast, Absolute Basketball?
Sure. So Absolute Basketball podcast, we did 50 episodes in the first 79 days. Interviewed the likes of Jeff Capel, John Shire, head coaches and college coaches all around. Tried to get some scouts in there too on the NBA side as well as on the high school side. Guys like Jack Heron, Eric Hamford, college basketball coaches like Joel Justice at Kentucky, Mike Rhodes at VCU, Jamie Christian at George Washington, and the list.
Your mic. Mm-mm.
Check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Where did we leave off at?
You left off at the part about who you've interviewed for basketball your podcast.
Okay, so I'll just start that answer over. Absolute Basketball Podcast. We're on all the major channels, all the Apple, Spotify's, and all that stuff. What we did was in season 1, did about 50. We did 50 interviews in 75, 79 or so days. What we tried to do was branch out with as much basketball as possible in that. College head coaches at all levels, from D2 all the way up to high major. We interviewed scouts, other regional scouts, and we interviewed NBA guys, all that type of stuff. Some of the guests that we had on Jeff Capel at Pittsburgh, Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. We had Mike Rhodes at VCU, Jamie and Christian at George Washington. We had John Shire at Duke, Joel Justice, Kentucky, other regional scouts like Jack Heron and Eric Hamford, NBA analysts, just kind of wide-ranging stuff with all-encompassing basketball. And that was an absolute grind because, obviously you had to book all the guests. You had to research all the guests. And the interviews were about an hour long each, from 30 minutes to an hour, a deep dive into each person's personal story, how they came up, how they got into it, their background in basketball, and how they got to where they're at, and what they have looking forward, and all that type of stuff. So very proud of the work and the hard work that it was that went into it, and very proud of season 1. There's some great stuff there. You can check it out on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you consume your content at. Absolute Basketball Podcast. But season 2 is coming around the corner. It's not going to be as rigorous. It's not going to be so many episodes. It's such short a time. We're going to space it out to probably 1, maybe 2 per week. But we're very excited about the guests and what we have coming forward with it.
Can you talk about the process in finding these people like Jeff Cable and how you go by interviewing them and contacting them?
Sure. So all these guys I already have previous relationships with. I talked to Jeff frequently. I talked to John Shire, and all these guys whom I've interviewed, I talk to pretty frequently because of the scouting stuff they do. I've known them for a while. We talk about players and all that type of stuff. So I already have a relationship with the majority of them It just came into working their schedule out, working my schedule out, getting it when I needed them. Then the research goes into it, so every one of them, every single day, deep diving into their backgrounds and all that type of stuff too. So, became very Google friendly, trying to search and everything and asking questions and all that type of stuff. And the podcasts are very conversational. Everybody's got a different path. Whether you're Kevin Keats at NC State, who started off at Hargrave and just built and built and built all the way up to Louisville and then to Wilmington and NC State, or if you're like a Jeff Capel who, was a player his whole life and had the idea of always wanting to be a player, and then circumstances happened and he hung around his dad for a little while and then got the coaching bug and now he's where he's at with all that success and then all those guys in between, they all have individual stories as well. So it was a lot of fun, diving into it and getting to know these people on a deeper level other than, hey, is this player good? Getting to know their stories and getting in a very comfort zone and comfort level conversationally with them.
Can you talk about how you got started with the Coach's Corner?
Yeah, so that was another thing that was kind of an idea during quarantine. One of my friends, David Bentley, was doing a 3-level panel, and I was just fascinated by how he was able to get, coaches at every level sharing their stories and stuff. So, during the podcast and everything, it's more directed by me, kind of flowing through a storyline that I had in my mind, directing them down questions and all that type of stuff. The Coach's Corner is more so either how they wanted to take it. So if they wanted to come on and say Kellen Sampson at the University of Houston wanted to come on and share defensive principles, he was able to do that, or whether Joel Justice at Kentucky wanted to come on and share, how he builds relationships, he could do that. It gave assistant coaches at every level of college basketball a platform to share their expertise. What they wanted to put out there. So it was for coaches only. We had everything from JV basketball coaches all the way up to Division I head coaches who entered the Coach's Corner to watch and ask questions. And then we had a presenter. We had 15 of these that happened. We had an assistant Division I coach come on who presented, who kind of shared their platform and showed what they wanted to sell, not sell, to show what they wanted to show. And it was almost like a class. They would come in, they had a PowerPoint presentation, they had videos cut up and all that type of stuff. And the coaches at every level would sit down and watch. And then at the very end, it'd be a Q&A with great interaction. I mean, each one of these lasted from an hour to 2 hours. They're all recorded on my YouTube channel, Absolute Basketball Experience. And it was very educational. It was great to see during this time the industry kind of come together as a whole. A lot of times people are very secretive with what they do. So it was great to see them kind of everybody come together as a whole and share and ask questions and learn. And hopefully that sustains when we come out of this. But also, hopefully a lot of people took this time to learn and get better, not only at themselves, but what their craft is.
From your personal experience, which one's easier for you to get people to do, interviews or the Coach's Corner where the coaches teach other coaches?
They neither. How do I answer this? They were both equally difficult. And difficult is probably too strong of a word. Neither one of them are really hard to get people to do. Because people want to share their stories. People love talking about themselves. And again, they trust me. They trust the fact that I will, not put them out, hang them out to dry or anything like that. Have a relationship with these people and all that type of stuff. So it's been, they trust the fact that I will help them out and only provide a positive platform for them to work on. So difficult, it wasn't difficult to get them to share. It wasn't difficult to get them to talk and to help, because these coaches, at the end of the day, they want to help, they want to share, and they want to find a trusted platform to be able to do that on.
What advice would you give upcoming basketball scouts looking to get into the profession?
It's all about the grind. You're only as valuable as the information that you have, and being present and being in the gym and being seen and not being afraid to ask questions and not being afraid to stick to your guns and not being afraid to say what you see. There's a whole lot of luck involved as well. A whole lot of breaks. But then also, at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer in the fact that you build your own luck with the work that you put in. So it's all about the grind. It's all about long hours. It's all about the hard work, trusting yourself, and not waiting for others to come on and do things. You have to stick out and do it yourself. And I'm not sure if that helps. I'm not sure what that is. I'm a person, as I said, in 2013, I quit my 6-figure job in the corporate world and jumped in 2 feet to the scouting industry, not having a clue as to what it was, what it looked like, how to even make money with it, and just did, and just kept doing. And that's all I know how to do is jump in with 2 feet and keep going and keep going and keep going, and then something will work out. So trust in yourself, trust in your vision. Stay true to that and work your tail off.
What advice would you give upcoming basketball scouts looking to start a podcast just like you?
Just do it. Just do it. That's kind of, again, what I did. There's never a right time. It's almost like becoming a parent. You're never fully ready for it. You just got to start doing it and adjust and adapt. Study the industry. See what other people are doing, see what's working for other people, but also have a self-awareness as to what you are, what your niche is, and what you're good at, and just jump in with 2 feet. Be ready to adapt and adjust. Be flexible and versatile, and just do it. Because you look back on what you did the first time. When I look back to my scouting reports in 2013, or when I look back at my first interview on my podcast, or even in this short amount of time, it's like, wow, I've really grown and adjusted. It's just a matter of doing it, putting the content out there, getting the feedback, watching it yourself, studying the industry, and continuing to adjust and adapt, and getting better yourself. But the main thing is just do it.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
So on Twitter, I'm at Jamie Shaw 5. That's JAMIE Shaw 5. On Instagram, it's at Jamie_Shaw 5. JAMIE_Shaw SHAW 5. On YouTube, I'm approaching 1,000 subscribers. Very excited about that. Started in April, my channel. Absolute Basketball Experience. And then on the podcast, we're about to get started for season 2 here in the next week or two. Absolute Basketball Podcast, which will be on Apple or Spotify or wherever you find your content.
Thank you again, Jamie, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with your podcast.
Brandon, thank you so much, man.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Jamie, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. You too, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.